Hey guys, this is Courtney from Will's Bloom, and this is the AstroBiz podcast, where we talk about astrology and business. And Will's Bloom is the parent of this podcast, and it's all about intentionally designing our life and business with the cosmos. Hey guys, today we're here with Rachel Moffett, the mindset guru, who is actually a recent graduate of the course that I'm currently enrolled in, where you dive into everything about the subconscious and reprogram it. It's such a powerful course, and she's been helping people do this now for months. And she specifically helps coaches with their mindset in their coaching business. So I'm so excited to have her on today to help you guys with the mindset behind what it takes to own a business, to pivot. She's had a lot of big changes and a lot of success. So I think that she'll have so much guidance for you guys, and I'm really excited to have her on. Rachel, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on your new podcast.
I'm so thrilled. She was just telling me before we hit record a little bit about her story, but I just wanted to cut her off so she can tell you guys. So will you pick up from the very beginning? What's your story? How did you get into this? How'd you end up here?
Yeah, so I actually started blogging back in 2009. Back then, I feel like not a lot of people were really blogging. I mean, there was definitely a blogging community, but I didn't know anybody personally who was blogging or knew anything about it. But fashion blogging was a big thing back then, and not that it isn't now, but it was really kind of exploding at that time. Like you were seeing these fashion bloggers creating collections with big brands and sitting front row at fashion shows and all that kind of stuff. And I was in college at the time studying communications and psychology, and I decided I was going to start a blog as a creative outlet. So I started fashion blogging and did that for a few years before I launched a separate, more like lifestyle kind of blog in early 2013. And that blog was really all about like fashion, beauty, DIYs, home decor, all that kind of stuff. It was more so I could write articles and I didn't necessarily have to be in front of the camera doing outfit posts, because let me tell you, when you're a fashion blogger, it gets really expensive when you're always buying new clothes to try and come up with like great outfits for your outfit photos. So it was fun, but yeah, a lot of shopping took place in those days. Ultimately, I moved away from the whole fashion blogging world in 2015. I left my last day job at a law firm because I hated it and I was miserable and really had no backup plan and didn't have any idea what I was going to do, which I don't really advise. But I just couldn't take it anymore. I left, and ultimately I decided to start coaching other bloggers because I always had people reaching out, asking questions about how to start a blog, how to make money online, and all that kind of stuff. So that's what led me to do the whole blog coaching thing that I did for many years up until this past year, when I decided I wanted to make a bit of a change and do the certification with Reese from Yes Supply to get certified as a life and success coach and a practitioner in neurolinguistic programming, emotional freedom technique, time techniques, and clinical hypnotherapy. So now that I have all of these amazing tools that I'm able to use with my clients, I'm really committed to doing a lot more mindset work with them and helping other women in business, particularly coaches, helping them really become more confident, see the value that they have to add to the world with their offerings, and helping them just make more money doing something that they actually enjoy.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you have a background in blogging. I love that you were one of the first. I feel like 2009, wow. That is way ahead of the curve. I think, now if you start a blog, it's just so saturated.
That's
So
true.
you've got a lot of experience under your belt. You know how to run a business, and now you can focus on the mindset behind it, which is so essential. And so I love that you have the experience paired with now these amazing tools to really help people up level to CEO status of their own business. So, what have been the common mindset things or setbacks you've seen people go through when they're starting a business or when they're trying to be a coach?
Mm-hmm. I think really the biggest thing is a lot of people just have that fear in the very beginning that they're not good enough to do what they want to do. And that really holds them back from taking the leap and going after something that they may really want to do. And a lot of people are also afraid of failing because they worry that they're going to pour so much time and effort into something that it's not going to work out in the end. And they just don't feel like they want to make that risk, take that risk. And I think the other thing is, a lot of people get really caught up in, and I was guilty of this as well, but a lot of people get caught up in worrying so much about criticism or judgment from other people, whether that's people in real life or people online. And you really never know how people are going to respond. And that's why all you can do is just go for it. And you have to just put yourself out there, and you'll see if you're going to fail or if you're going to make it work. And I think a lot of times once you start putting yourself out there, it's really not as scary as people think it is. I mean, I may be in the minority here, but like I said, I've been blogging since 2009, and I genuinely don't think I have ever gotten one nasty comment in all these years, which is like some sort of miracle, I think. But I remember being so afraid to put myself out there back in those days, but I really didn't have anything to be scared about because I didn't deal with all of this negativity or hatred that I just thought I was going to get. It really didn't end up being like that. And yeah, I just think those are some of the most common things that really hold people back. And it's not worth it because you're never really going to find out unless you just go for it and put yourself out there.
Yes. I love how you brought up the negativity thing and said that you didn't have any experiences, because I actually definitely have. I think it really depends on the outlet that you choose. So like a blogger, I mean, people are really going out of their way to find you as your site, as your content. Same thing with podcasts. Like, it's not as common to see a nasty podcast review because like you're going out of your way to leave a review. It honestly takes a couple of minutes unless you're just peeved and you think the quality is not good. But I feel like, other outlets, people just get spammed, or not spam, but for every 10 nice people, there's one mean comment. Like on YouTube videos that I had, there would be some people that had mean comments, like back when I was doing my English videos. And, I have to admit, when I saw that very first mean comment, I was like, oh, that is so mean. And it really affected me for a full 24 hours. I was just like, that was mean. And I thought about it a bunch. But then after that, I was like, you know what? They're honestly a loser for them to like take the time to write something nasty when I'm just trying to help people. And that's on them, and it doesn't have to affect me. And I think it does, depending on how far you want to put yourself out there and what outlets, but I think it does take just time to get like a thicker skin. And I think it's honestly good for you though, because I think everything in business, it takes a thicker skin. Like you kind of get beat around a little bit, and you do have failures, and you have to kind of grow and learn from those things and go in expecting that that's okay to fail. And so I like that you mentioned the failure part, because I mean, I had failed businesses before this one. So it's not like you just go in and everything's perfect from round one. And so can you tell people, the listeners, have you had any failures that you feel like were really great growing experiences for you?
Absolutely. I mean, I really think a lot more people than we realize have had failures in their business. The truth is, people just don't publicize it. They don't really talk about it. There are definitely some people out there who are super genuine and honest, and they're transparent, and they share those things with their audience. Maybe they share it years later, not necessarily while they're going through it. I mean, I'm sure there are probably some people that are pretty upfront about it during the process, but I think people are a bit more inclined nowadays to say, well, 5 years ago, guess what happened? But I mean, I definitely had no idea what I was doing when I started blogging. And back in like the fashion blogging days, I was just kind of going with the flow, doing whatever. But then when I started doing the coaching, and I decided, well, let's write an ebook, let's launch a course and things like that, where I was really putting products out there for the first time. I mean, I definitely had flopped launches where nobody bought anything. And these were things that even people said that they were interested in buying and still didn't buy. So it's all just a learning experience of really trying to make sure that you're, creating something that, one, you're really passionate about and that's aligned with your goals. Because I was just talking to a client earlier who felt that she felt kind of pressured to go back into some work that she used to do that she doesn't want to do anymore because she wants to move forward and focus specifically on coaching, not this like done for you kind of stuff that she was doing previously. And she almost felt compelled to go back to that because of the current financial situation and wanting to just make, I guess, a quick buck. But if it's not aligned with what you really feel good about doing, that's going to come off to other people. They're not going to connect with it. And I think the other thing is really just making sure that not only are you aligned with the products and the services that you're creating, but also making sure it's really something that your audience wants. And I mean, like I said, I've been there. I did everything. I validated my offerings and did all the right things according to like the business experts of the world. But you can still flop if you like, don't believe in yourself, or due to other circumstances, maybe people just didn't see it. Maybe you didn't share it enough, and that could be a mindset thing as well. But yeah, I've definitely been there. I've definitely had failures. Have I talked about it much? No, because it was years ago, and I don't know. I guess I never really thought about it, but maybe it's time to start talking more about some failures.
Yeah, I think it's so reassuring to hear when people have failures. It's not like you want people to fail, but it's like you want to connect with them and feel less bad about yourself in a lot of ways. You're like, oh, they failed too, and look how good they're doing. It's just part of life. Like, it's just part of this process. And also, I love how you mentioned that you still did all the things that you're supposed to do, and then you still had a flop. And I think that that's an important thing to keep in mind. Are there's so many variables, and you can listen to all the business advice in the world, but at the end of the day, you don't always necessarily control your success. And also, a lot of your success might be linked to your mindset. Like, maybe you're just not there as a vibrational match with your mindset to the life that you want, and that takes time. That takes a lot of working on your inner self and the self development in order to actually burst through those next levels, like those next level devils that you keep encountering all along the way. And if you find that a product doesn't necessarily take off, and that it's good content and that people wanted it, sometimes it's just about repurposing it and finding different copy, finding a different angle. It's not necessarily that what you did was wrong, or like the content was wrong. It's like maybe the approach was wrong. And I've seen that with people who have had failures in their launches, and they've just repurpose it to a different audience or from a different angle, and it's the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it takes off. And so it's all about just pivoting. Like, business is always about just changing and pivoting, and never letting the failures get you down, and never personalizing them. Like, if something is failing, it's not you. And I know I just said it was your mindset, so I guess it's kind of contradictory. But it's not you, as in like you're not valuable as a person. It's what new things, new tactics can I try? And then how can I work on myself, like from the inside out, to be a vibrational match?
Exactly.
So what kind of things do you do with your clients then in order to help them become that vibrational match, in order to pull in their soulmate clients?
Yeah. So with the certification and having completed that last year, and now that I'm certified in NLP and all these other awesome modalities, that's really the work that I'm doing with most of my clients, because they need that deeper mindset work that other things maybe just can't necessarily provide. So I love doing NLP techniques with people. I do find that I do a lot of the same techniques for anybody who is familiar with NLP, which I know you are, but I find that I'm doing a lot of the same techniques with people because so many of my clients need the exact same kind of stuff. So a lot of single belief change and swish patterns and things like that. I love doing like time techniques to clear limiting decisions with people, and doing hypnosis. Hypnosis is always so much fun. Like, I find myself just recording hypnosis tracks for me to use personally. So if I have an issue that comes up, something I want to work on, I'm like, okay, let me just record a hypnosis, or let's create a little tapping sequence and just do it for myself. Because if I spent all this money to invest to use these things on my clients, of course I'm going to use them on myself too.
Yes. And I think I love that, because I also want to start integrating tapping into my morning routine. I haven't finished that module, so I'm not on that yet, but I definitely feel like that's a really powerful way to utilize the mind-body connection. Because if you guys don't know what tapping is, it's basically like you're kind of putting pressure, like you're tapping on different pressure points of your body that use the same meridians as acupuncture. So it has a similar effect. It just kind of opens up these like energy bodies basically. And then you say different things to yourself while you're tapping on them. And it's supposed to be really powerful. And I know that you keep mentioning, NLP and things like that, but I would hope that you could, I'm wondering if you could just describe a little bit about like what that is, or, yeah, like for people who are like, what the heck is NLP? Because I certainly didn't know that long ago.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest, like I had been following Reese since, we were both doing the certification through Reese of Yes Supply. I've been following her for a long time. And I don't know how I had only just found out about the certification in March of last year, because at that point she had already run an in-person training and I don't know how I missed it. But I started seeing somebody else that I was following talk about it. I'm like, what is NLP? I don't know anything about NLP. What is this? I had no clue. But basically, it's just all about the language of the mind. And with these tools that NLP gives you, you are essentially able to reprogram your mindset. You can use techniques to make certain beliefs untrue and make the opposite belief true. You can use a technique to make yourself dislike a certain food that you don't want to like anymore, which that's fun. I mean, there are so many amazing things that you can do with this, and it really just helps you create some powerful shifts in your mind. I know for me personally, I have a bit of a different experience with it where I've watched other people go through some of these NLP techniques and they see shifts immediately. And for me, I wouldn't necessarily notice a shift right away. I would kind of notice it later on when I was maybe presented in a situation where I used to react a certain way or used to do this or want to eat this or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden it was just different. So it really is powerful how instantly you can make a shift. Like the one thing that I always like to share with people is there's a technique called mapping across. And I don't know if you saw this at like Reese was talking about it on her Instagram stories on one of the last live trainings that she did. And mapping across is a technique where you can go from liking something to disliking it, particularly a food or a drink. And they were doing a demonstration in the class. This girl decided she wanted to give up coffee, and she took a drink of her coffee before she went up to have mapping across done. And then as they were doing the technique and they finished up, she thought she was going to be sick because she had the taste of coffee in her mouth because she just had it before and now she doesn't like coffee. So it really is crazy just how quickly people can react to some of these shifts that they're making.
Yeah, and I definitely think some people are more open. Like I think those people can have, more of those radical shifts like overnight, right away.
Oh
But
yeah.
I do think that even if it's like for you and I feel like the shifts definitely happened, but it was a subtle subconscious shift that actually had it's like a hard to pinpoint, but a dramatic effect on the way I felt, the way I was. I remember I had a session with Rachel, and she's awesome, guys. Like you should definitely book a session with her. She was so professional, so good. And I know because I took the course, so I know that she's doing everything perfectly and doing it really well. And yeah, so I had a session with her, and after I felt so on fire. And actually, our session was about feeling confident asking people for money, like charging clients and really stepping into my power. And I noticed because it was many months until I asked anyone for money. It was actually right after I started recording videos, and I noticed a huge shift in my confidence with the videos. And it's just crazy because it really spills over into other areas of your life. It's not like, okay, now you have confidence in this one area. It's a psychological, subconscious shift where you suddenly start to embody that characteristic. Like, I'm just more confident now than I was before. And I think that even if you like continuously do these techniques over time, I honestly think it just helps more and more. Do you find
Mhm.
that people just need it once, or do you think that people need to come back and have more than one session?
I definitely think it's more beneficial when you're able to work with somebody over a longer period of time. But like I do have a 90-minute session that is really geared more towards like kind of simpler, well, maybe not necessarily simpler things, but we focus on just one thing in those calls. Whereas if you're going to work with somebody for 3 months, then you really have the extra time to dig deeper and use a variety of techniques and address multiple issues that somebody may have. Whereas a 60 or 90-minute call, you really only have time to focus on one thing. You might have time to do like one or two techniques. Cause I mean, at first you're hopping on this call and you're chatting with people and getting to know them and doing a little digging into like, what the root cause of their issue is. So you only have so much time. That's why I think it is a lot more beneficial to really have that extra time to have those additional coaching sessions where you can come back, especially if you notice that maybe something's come up later that you didn't realize you had initially after the first call or whatever it may be. And I also think it's a good opportunity because, like I said, with me, I didn't necessarily notice this immediate shift. I would notice it like a few days or a week later when I was in this situation where I would have normally behaved differently. And now I'm in this situation and I'm not, behaving the way that I was before I had the technique done. So I think it gives people more opportunity to keep coming back and saying like, oh, well, like after last week's call, I didn't really feel different when we got off the call. But since then, X, Y, and Z has happened. And I did, I just think it's a lot better when you do have that additional time. But I think a lot can still be done in one session. In one session, you can still have some really amazing shifts though.
Yeah. I do think multiple sessions are really powerful just because if you think about our whole lives, we've been operating under these beliefs, under these attitudes and like identities that we've put on ourselves. And you're really not going to get rid of that in one 90-minute session, especially not with one technique, because there's so many layers to that. It's, you could fix one aspect of it or one problem, and then you'll have it in another area of your life. And so while the shifts are very powerful, there are a lot of nuances to the subconscious mind. So it is even more powerful to have ongoing sessions. Mm-hmm. So I love that you offer that. And I wanted to just take a quick look at your astrology chart because I think it's fascinating that you are working specifically with the subconscious, because actually your sun is in the 12th house, and the sun is our ego, and the 12th house is actually the house of self-undoing. So a lot of times people who work in occupations like psychiatry or, maybe they work in a jail or they're helping people with their spirituality or their subconscious, they will oftentimes have their sun in the 12th house. And so I'm not surprised that that's specifically what you're working on, because you're really helping people remove that self-undoing. Like you're going into their deep unconscious to reprogram it in a way that allows them to move forward and heal their life. And your sun is specifically in Virgo, which is a sign that is quite detail oriented and systematic, but also really practical. So you definitely will have this more spiritual aspect to the way that you like to run your life and your business, but you like to ground that in the practical and use these really powerful and practical tools that actually show results, because Virgos are all about having tangible results manifest through your actions. So they're less like ethereal and more grounded in reality. And so I can definitely see in your chart that would make you really powerful. Your ascendant is also in Virgo. So you definitely would be, I would think that you'd be a more organized person. Would you agree with that?
Definitely organized. I'm not somebody who likes mess or clutter. So in that regard, I am like 100% Virgo. So it definitely shows with all the Virgo I've got going on with Virgo rising and Virgo sun. So
yeah, that is strong Virgo energy. How do you feel about being efficient and, staying on task and being really productive? Is it something that is important to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely important. I mean, I think we all have our days where we're not so productive and we can't focus. We're very easily distracted, but I'm definitely that person that is like breaking all my projects down and putting them in ClickUp and like blocking off time in my calendar and like putting all of my very organized notes in Evernote. Yeah, I'm that person.
Okay, okay. I'm glad that you said that because a lot of people don't even know what ClickUp even is or
Oh my
project management
God.
system
I
even.
love ClickUp. It's the best. If you don't know what ClickUp is, please just go look it up.
That's funny because I was going to ask you what your favorite tool is that you've invested in or, for free that's really impacted your business. Would you say that that's ClickUp or another thing?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say ClickUp and Evernote are my two. Like, I've been using Evernote since I first started blogging because one of the websites that I followed back then that like got me into blogging, she used Evernote to organize all of her blog posts and like write her blog posts and like all that kind of stuff. So I've been using Evernote since like 2009 and I just am obsessed with it. So
Yeah, I have integrated Evernote, but everyone throws it around. So I kind of feel like I should, but I'm more like doing Google Docs. I don't know if that is organized enough.
well, the benefit with Evernote is that you have all these different notebooks and you can have different stacks. So I've got like a stack that has multiple notebooks with like all of my business projects where it's got courses or coaching or whatever. Then I've got another stack that's just like different things like a calendar and ideas and all sorts of stuff. So it just helps me keep everything organized.
Yeah. And honestly, that's so important. The more that you grow and expand, your business will collapse if you don't have organization. Like you
Oh,
will
yeah.
drop the ball because there's so many small moving pieces. I mean, at first, when you don't really have that many clients, it's not really an issue. But then once things start picking up, you realize how many things are going at once. You kind of
Mhm.
have like plates spinning and you will drop them if you don't have, a system in place to keep them spinning.
Yeah, it
And
makes such a difference to have systems in place to kind of keep everything organized. Like, for me, I have everything in Dubsado, so I'm able to really automate everything with onboarding clients and sending contracts and invoices and payment reminders and scheduling and all this stuff. It's so much easier when you don't have to stress about it or worry about it, and you essentially have this tool that's doing all the work for you. But doesn't necessarily look like it's this automated thing because you personalize it all with, or if you're like me, Harry Potter gifts. So yeah, that's what all of my emails from Dubsado contain.
yeah, yeah, I love that you mentioned that tool because in my business astrology course, I mentioned that for service providers because it's just an all-in-one platform. Like,
Oh
do
yeah.
yourself a favor and automate your life. Just, everything will be sent, and you don't really have to go track everything down. And so that is such a good tool as well. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I just wanted to also draw your attention to the fact that you have Gemini on your midheaven. So that's basically you have the sign of writing and communication in your 10th house. So this is your career line. And so it's really no surprise that you are just really into the writing aspect of blogging. Like I know that you mentioned the photos and stuff, but that you really wanted to focus more on the writing. And that's because Gemini is all about writing and communication. So as far as your career, I can definitely see you always having some sort of communication aspect. And then you also have Cancer in the 10th house, which is being more in touch with the emotional side of things. So oftentimes, people with a prominent placement in the 10th house in Cancer might be like a therapist. You don't have a prominent placement here, but you definitely have that energy. So I think that mixes well with your coaching because, you're tapping into the subconscious mind, but you also have that more like nurturing emotional aspect and ability to really communicate with people and have them open up to you. So I think that is so powerful. And yeah, so I think that those are like the most important parts of your chart that I'm noticing that relate to your career. And you also have Pluto in the second house. And I know that you specifically help people with finances and their mindset around money. And Pluto oftentimes can show us where we can dig deeper, and you have it in the second house of finances. So you're already going to have this nature where you're going to be a little bit more inquisitive or interested and fascinated with the side of finances. And so, really helping people with that, I think, is so in line with your chart and with who you are. Are you interested in money? Like, has that been a topic that you love to explore?
I think it probably has been really since I started learning more about like law of attraction and money mindset many, many years ago, which was like such a long time ago. But I don't think I can't remember what year it was that I really learned about law of attraction, but I think it was more in like 2015 when I started doing a lot more, research and learning when it comes to money mindset and how to manifest money. So ever since then, that's definitely been something that I've read a lot about and I've talked a lot about. Whether or not people in my real life, when I talk to them about it, want to listen to me, well, I guess that's their fault. But I try to tell people things, and well, sometimes they just think I'm crazy, but I'm always talking about manifesting stuff and law of attraction. So
Yes, I love that. Yeah, because also the second house is like our wants, our desires, our goals. So having Pluto here could make you really interested in going after those goals, like being ambitious, being, desiring to create your own reality and manifest, bringing that in through manifestation. So I love that. I'm also super interested in manifestation, and I think that's so cool. Um, okay, so what advice do you have for beginning entrepreneurs in general?
I think in general is really to just don't hold yourself back from going after something that you want simply because you're worried that you might not be good enough, or you're worried that you might fail, or you're worried that somebody may criticize you. Like I said earlier, whether that's like friends and family in your real life or somebody online, it's really not worth it to hold yourself back from going after something that you really want. I have been in that position before where I dreaded waking up every single day to go to a job that I just didn't like. And there was really no reason that I didn't like that job. Like, it was fine, but I didn't love it. It didn't leave me feeling fulfilled. And I just didn't enjoy going there every day. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I knew that I really wasn't meant to just sit in an office all day, every day. Well, okay, I do that, but for myself, I'm not meant to sit in an office and like work for somebody else, basically, doing work that I just don't love. And I feel like everybody deserves to have a career that they love. So I think the most important thing is that you just don't hold yourself back from going after what you want. And I know that it's easier said than done, but I've been in this same situation where I was afraid to start blogging and afraid to start coaching because I was worried that I didn't really have anything to offer anybody, that nobody was going to want to buy my products or services. I worried that people in real life were, I don't know why I thought that people would like Google me and find my website. Like back in those days, like the fashion blogging days, I thought people would be like, oh, this is Rachel from high school. Like she was a little emo kid in high school. She wore all clothes from Hot Topic because I wore like Dickies and band t-shirts and Chucks. And now she's a fashion blogger. Really? Like everything that I could have thought of like went through my mind. I really thought that there was going to be so much criticism. But the reality is, nobody I went to high school with is looking me up. Nobody is Googling me. Nobody cares what I'm doing. I don't care what they're doing. I don't care if they are working at a restaurant. I don't care if they're stripping, whatever they're doing. It doesn't affect me. So why would I think that what I'm doing affects them in any way? So once I realized that people really didn't care and that they weren't going to judge me for anything I was doing, I think that made me realize that it was okay to put myself out there. But that was something that I really struggled with for years. So just don't let any kind of fear of failure or criticism or that you're not good enough hold you back from going after something that could potentially make you really happy and maybe also make you a lot of money in the process.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I actually just spoke with one of my students today, and she was talking about how, she was nervous about like starting posting her business stuff on Instagram because all of her friends followed her. And I was just like, start a new account. Like you don't need to have all these people on there who aren't really interested in your specific niche. Like they're following you because they like you, but you can always advertise on your new account that you moved and that they can follow you on there. And then you don't have to worry about all these people from high school and what they think about you because you're just floating around in the ethers of the internet then. and
Yeah. And I mean, you could always have like a private personal account for friends and family that aren't interested in your business stuff where you can post like your goofy photos that don't go with your Instagram aesthetic and all of that. But I mean, I totally get it because I didn't even put my name, like my first and last name out there for so long, because for some reason I just thought people were going to Google me and find all of this. But the reality was, if you Googled me, you would maybe find like 1 or 2 pictures of me in Google image search, and every other Rachel Moffett that came up wasn't me.
Yeah.
So nobody was going to find me anyway. I don't know why I thought people would have an interest in Googling me. I highly doubt anybody from high school is thinking, hey, what's Rachel doing? Because we're all friends on Facebook anyway. So they
Yeah.
don't know what I'm doing because I don't ever post on my personal Facebook. But if they wanted to figure it out, they would just go find me there, and they're not going to find anything anyway. But even just like my Instagram handle was my name, but it wasn't before. And that was a big deal for me to even just change my Instagram handle, because it made me more discoverable by people in real life. I didn't care if people on the internet and strangers found me, but people in real life, like, God forbid, which really just, it doesn't make any sense. But
Yeah.
it's definitely a thing people struggle with. They just worry about what other people are going to think. And it's just not worth being concerned over, because at the end of the day, do you really care what those people from high school think about you? Probably not. I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, their opinions don't really matter. Like, you're not friends with them. Like, it doesn't really matter if they think what you're doing is silly or whatever it is. I mean, if you're like me, I graduated high school in 2006, which makes me feel very old. And the reality is, it really does not matter. I'm a different person than I was back then, as is everybody else that I went to school with. And we are all on our own paths and doing our own things. And that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think a good test is, if I were on my deathbed, would this matter to me? And would I regret not making that decision or not going after my dreams out of fear of what other people think? And yeah, you would definitely regret that. And so it's a lot easier to kind of put things into perspective and worry less about the little things, because that's definitely one of the little things. And the thing is, a lot of mindset things are honestly little things, and they really hold people back in a huge way. And the more time that you delay over these little mindset hiccups, the longer it's going to take you to actually have your dream life. And I think a lot about mindset is just believing that it's possible for you and wanting it for you. Because if you fully owned yourself as a business owner and fully believed in it from day one, you wouldn't necessarily have the thought about what if they think I'm silly, because you would fully believe in it and own it. But it does take time to build up that kind of courage and that identity for yourself and practice, through owning a business. It doesn't come from day one, but at least going into it, knowing that you're going to try and make it work, and until you get that mindset shift. So what are some like tangible tips that people can take away today in order to help them work on their mindset?
So, one of the things that I'm actually planning to write a blog post about maybe sometime this month is, it's really based off of a productivity tip where people suggest theming your days of the week. So, like, Monday might be your admin day if you take clients, like maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays if you're like me, or your client days, things like that. And what I have taken to really suggesting to some of my clients, particularly since a lot of them are coaches and running service-based businesses, is to make sure you have those dedicated client days each week. And even if you don't have clients, still use those days as client days, and just take that time to really think about and visualize like what your life is going to look like when you have these clients, and embody the version of you who is a successful business owner at whatever it is you're doing. So maybe that's doing some meditation or listening to a hypnosis track or doing some tapping, doing some journaling. Scripting is a really amazing journaling exercise to really write things that you want to manifest as if they've already shown up. So just getting out your journal and writing, I'm so happy and grateful now that, and whatever it is you want to manifest, whether it's 5 new clients or a certain amount of money or whatever it is, and then just start writing about your life as if you have already manifested all of this. So that's why I think having those dedicated client days, and if you don't have clients right now, doing the things that are going to help put you in a position where you are going to attract clients to you and where you are embodying this awesome boss version of yourself, it's just going to make you a magnet for all of the success and things that you want. So I just think a lot of people don't really take the time to prioritize it. We get so caught up in everything else we need to do. We're like, I don't have time to sit down and like close my eyes and visualize something or to journal or whatever. But it really is those simple techniques that make a huge difference. Just close your eyes and visualize what your life will look like when you have all the things that you want, and really just incorporate all of the emotions into it. Like, what are you going to see? What are you going to hear? What are you going to taste? Maybe you spend your lunch breaks like going out to random lunch dates with your friends in the middle of the day because you're a boss and you make your own schedule now and you can do what you want. So, whatever it is, just make it feel so real and just allow that movie to play out in your mind and make that a priority multiple times a week, because it's not something that you can just sit down and visualize it once and it's going to come to you. Some people are great at manifesting and they can put it out there and it will come to them very quickly. But when it's a bigger thing that you're trying to manifest, it's going to take a bit more effort, a bit more visualizing, and a bit more effort to really get on the same energetic frequency as the things you want to attract. It's not like manifesting a bag of candy from your coworker or something. I say that because like I used to think to myself at work, man, I really want some Sour Patch Kids. And then like weirdly, my coworker who would always walk to the convenience store next door would always buy me Sour Patch Kids just when I happen to want them. So I mean, it's going to take time, and I think that's why a lot of people give up on manifesting things, because things don't show up as quickly as they want. You have to be committed. You have to continue putting in the effort to really embody the version of yourself that has all of the things that you want. Dress the way that she does, do your hair and makeup the way that she does, think the way that she does, behave the way that she does, whatever you need to really start feeling like that person now.
Yes, yes. I'm such a firm believer in everything that you're saying, and I practice this daily. I have a meditation every single morning that takes me through my chakras, my seven chakras in the body, and then I go and I visualize life that I want, and then I practice gratitude within that meditation for what I have to put me in a vibration of abundance to attract that life, not out of desire, which is like more linked to scarcity. Like, I want this right now. It's like, I'm so grateful for what I have. And then I'm also want to attract this other beautiful thing. And so that's what I do every day. And then after that, I also do a journaling where I break down my goals. So I put how much money I want to make a month. And then I put how many courses I want to sell, how many students I want to have a month. And then I put in, really positive words next to them, like happy, fulfilled students, easy, abundant money, things like that.
Off of the journaling aspect, like if anything ever comes up for you when you're journaling, like if you are scripting and you're writing about like you're making 20K per month in your business and you're living this awesome life, but if you start having these doubts come up while
Mm,
you're journaling, write down all of the limiting beliefs that come up and then write something positive to counteract that belief. So if you're sitting there thinking like, I'm just not good enough to be a business coach and to make this kind of money, write down why you are good enough, because you have skills and knowledge that people are willing to pay for. And because maybe you did do a coaching certification that gave you these amazing tools to help you create incredible transformations with your clients. Counteract every negative thing that comes up for you, so you no longer feel like those things are relevant and you believe the opposite instead, because we're all capable of creating amazing things in our lives. It's just a matter of getting rid of the limiting beliefs that say otherwise.
yes. And I do that too. Like, I've had some really strong limiting beliefs come up. And then when I noticed that, it just felt so heavy. So I did exactly what you said. I wrote them down and then wrote down why the opposite is true. Why am I the best person to teach this course? Why am I ready now? And any other
Mhm.
limiting belief that I had, just turning it on its head and actually allowing your subconscious mind and your brain to look for reasons why it's possible, because it's always going to default to the negative, and we have to train it to go back to the positive and think of all the reasons why we can do it. And then once you start getting used to being in that mode, it comes more easily to you. And then you start to take action anyway. And you sort of move those mindset issues to the side. They'll always come up. Like every time you start to do something new, you'll experience more and more self doubt. But then you go through those techniques. It's about having the tools and moving through it, not about not having the self doubt. And then another thing that I wanted to touch on, because you said, visualize. Well, I noticed when I first started visualizing that it was hard. Like it was kind of hard. I didn't know exactly what I wanted. I didn't know what it looked like. And it honestly took some time. But then I started visualizing it every single day. And then what I would do was visualize an entire day in my ideal life. And then after doing that for like a couple of weeks, I noticed that it was so much easier. Like the pictures started coming in, the details started coming in, the emotions, like everything that you mentioned. That's kind of a lot to throw on yourself at the beginning. Like, I want to have emotions and details and conversations. And just don't worry about having everything from the beginning. Just kind of ease yourself into it and realize that it takes time, and then it gets so much easier with time.
Absolutely. I mean, that is really one of the easiest ways to get started. It's just to think about what you want your ideal day to look like. What time are you going to wake up in the morning? If you could plan a really nice morning routine for yourself, what are some things that you would do? Like, what does your work day look like? Like, what kind of work are you doing? What time do you stop working? How do you unwind in the evenings? So many simple things. And the other thing that I would say is just make sure you're thinking about this in the morning, and I think in the evening as well, because that's when we're really most open to receiving those messages. So one of the things that I like to do that has worked really well for me is just when I get in bed at night, just take a few minutes and think about something that I want to manifest. And I'll think about the same thing every night for a week. And then after a week, I'll switch it to something else. And I mean, I was actually crazily able to manifest like $10,000 in a matter of days. Not necessarily like I didn't manifest it exactly how I thought I was going to manifest it, but just doing that for a few days, I manifested $10,000. So it really does work if you just trust that it's all going to be delivered and then it's all going to work out for you.
Yes. Yes, yes. And I think it's so important to recognize that it doesn't always come the way that you think it's going to come. And don't reject it. Do not close off that opportunity or that money, because you're manifesting things, or especially with money, like you're manifesting it and it's not always going to look the way that you wanted it to, but it's going to be just as perfect, or it's going to be even better than what you wanted.
Right. It's not your job to worry about the how. The
Yeah.
universe, God, angels, whoever you choose to, put your faith into here, that's their job to figure that out. The universe will figure out how you're going to get that 5,000, 10,000, $20,000, whatever it is. It's not up to you to figure that out. And when you just put it out there that you want X amount of dollars and you trust that it's going to come to you, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day how that money comes to you. Whether somebody, gives you money, maybe it's an inheritance, whether you make that money in your business, maybe you find this other completely random job opportunity, whatever it is, unexpected checks in the mail that you really can't even explain. Some like this happens. This actually happens. I mean, it doesn't really matter how you get the money as long as you get it. So that's why we can't be attached to how it's going to show up in our lives. We just have to be open to receiving it. And when we are an energetic match for that money, it will finally show up in our lives.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. And then one other thing I wanted to mention, because you were talking about, visualizing what your ideal life is like. Well, I think a really powerful exercise in tandem with that is the future self exercise, where you're just writing yourself a letter from the future. From like
Hmm.
yourself in the future is writing yourself a letter to your present self. And you can start to see what they think and where the gaps are. And then you can pull out all the little things that you actually need to change to get you to that ideal life. So it's more than, okay, yeah, you imagine it and you attract that, but then you actually become, like you said, the energetic vibrational match by stepping more into the future self, by doing the actions that your future self does, by dressing, like you said, by dressing the way that she does, but even more importantly, thinking the way that she does, which actually is a reason why you dress that way. It's all linked together. And so hopefully with these tools, you guys will be able to manifest $10,000 like Rachel has.
Yes.
I'm going to be working on that. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So I love everything that we went over today. Are there any last tips for people on their mindset, like what they can work on, or anything else that you just want to leave them with before we sign off?
I would really say just believe that anything is possible for yourself because it really is. This is really an amazing time to start building a business and figuring out what you really want in your life. And there's absolutely no reason that you can't make that happen. So don't worry about what anybody says. If this is something that you are passionate about and you really want to create a more fulfilling life for yourself, just go for it. Like, life is too short to spend your time working a job that you absolutely dread going to every day. That doesn't mean go in and quit your job right off the bat, because that's just stressful if you have no backup plan, because I did that. But, if there's really something that you want to create for yourself, just go for it.
Yeah, and I love that because you don't want to listen to what everyone else has to say because it's your dream. And so you're given that dream for a reason because you have the capability to make it come to life and also to believe in it. And people aren't going to believe in it for you. So if you listen to their self-doubt, you'll never actually make it happen. But if you just kind of step into it and own it and believe that you can have it, it will happen with time. And I've had people like not believe in astrology and not believe in what I'm doing, and family members say hurtful things about, how they don't get it. And it's just like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it's my life and that's what makes me happy. And if you are going and showing up to a job that you hate because it's the normal thing to do or the responsible thing to do, you're just doing yourself a disservice. So I love that you up and quit, even though maybe we don't suggest that necessarily. I love that you followed your heart because a lot of people are too scared to. And then you know, you get to that point, like I said, with that exercise where you're on your deathbed and it's like, did you really live the life that you wanted to live? And maybe the answer for a lot of people is no. So I'm glad that you are and that you're living your life to the fullest. And you are such a powerful mindset worker. I really hope that you guys book a session with Rachel. She really changed my life and my confidence. And she's so wonderful. So, where can people find you if they want to book a service or on Instagram? Where are you at?
So you can find me on Instagram at Rach Moffett, and my website is defineyourhustle.com. So you'll find all of my coaching services and courses and all that good stuff there.
Could you just spell your Instagram handle out so people can definitely find you?
Yeah, it's RachMoffett.
Great. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so, so much, Rachel. This has been incredible. Your advice is really helpful. So I hope that people are listening and starting to incorporate some of the morning routines and visualizations, like you mentioned, because it is so powerful and we all want to have $10,000. So thank you so much,
Yes.
Rachel. I really appreciate your time and I hope that you guys have a good day.